gonna do it for me and Takata for now. Back to you guys on the desk.
Thank you very much, guys. We'll be checking back in with you shortly as we head to game number 1. But while our Duros are boarding the battle bus, let's talk about some more of them and where they're going to be dropping on the map today. Because Grimgate Mini Miner, that sounds like it's going to be spicy.
Yeah, it's going to be very spicy indeed. I feel like it's been a while since we talked about a Grimgate off-spawn battle, because Grimgate as a POI, it kind of is a bit of a shell of its former self as well. It's kind of one of those POIs that's just not as powerful as it used to be, but still attracting some big names in Tus and Kami and Nebs and Kiduo, who are both landing at this drop spot. This is a bit of an interesting matchup here. The story of this off-spawn battle is that they actually did contest each other all the way back in the qualifying.
さんこんにちは、一番乗り。おい、お疲れ。
I'll get into what actually
トイ
happened
レ
there
行くわ。
very, very shortly. But the main part of this POI, the main aspect that both these players are looking to get to, is this bridge. This area right here, you can see the loot, you can see those barrels there as well, enabling you to get 40 shields straight away. So both of these teams are really trying to get there as quickly and as easily as possible. Of course, you get the high ground as well that you can look down on everyone. But as I mentioned earlier on, they did actually contest each other in qualifier number 1, and Kami and Tus actually ended up winning 5-1 in that off-spawn battle. Wow. However, Nebs and Kiduo actually ended up outplacing them. So it seems like Kami and Tus are a better off-spawn team at Grimgate. Nebs and Kiduo seem like they're a better team when it comes to playing out their games and making the most of the games that they do get out of this drop spot. So I'm intrigued as to how this battle's going to go today. And even though it's only 3 games as well, the lower bracket, nobody's actually going to the Grimgate area. So if one of the teams is starting to dominate, maybe the other team says, you know what, you can have this drop spot because we want it uncontested in lowers.
That's going to be really interesting. 11, do you think that Grimgate is gonna lose its inhabitants before we head to the lower bracket?
I mean, I'd reckon, yeah, it's probably going to be one or the other that goes through. It's interesting though, right? Because if you do almost, you know, cede Grimgate control and say, okay, you guys have it, you're guaranteeing you're you know, going to be contesting in grand finals, or at least there's the chance you then go and contest in grand finals. So it's an interesting dynamic at play of like, how do you know, play this in a way so that they are almost ruined and can't make it to grand. It's a tough dynamic, but I think they'll both be all right.
Well, a duo that had a great dynamic yesterday was Haijo and Kaito dropping at Lil Dirty Docs. They were often going down and doing cheeky third partying on the friends at Red Line Rig, or not friends anymore. Stash and Malibu I think was sick of the sight of them by the end of yesterday's action. So 11, is it going to be such an easy ride for them today?
1v1 で会いました。めっちゃうまかったです。マジ？あった？あ、なんか鶴橋を振ってくれた人もしかして。鶴橋試合の途中で振ってくれる人おるなと思って終わった後間でその人かななんでずらし振ってくれるんやろ振ってんやろと思ったらそういうこと分からんその人やったら分かる俺のことシャンチャン知ってんのかなと思った記憶があるずらし振ってる人は
The key thing about this drop, right, is there's a couple different ways you want to land for it. Typically,
towards
the south, because you get that slurp truck really good. You have a shield advantage in the Osborne fight. You also see teams sometimes 50-50 on that crane for that chest when there's a south bus path. In previous Osborne fights, right, they've been a bit shaky here at times, Mini Miner. I think the key for them, right, is one, we're going to have to see a south bus because they often do better on those ones than they do on far north buses. But also, I think the key is Kaito stepping up. In a lot of the previous, you know, fights they've had here, if Kaito didn't deliver, they ain't winning the fight. When Kaito can step up and clutch up and be big in these moments here and get that first contact and that first elim, they're more likely to win those engagements. So a lot of pressure on Kaito. Hydro, obviously the experienced vet. Another key part of this POI though, Mini Miner, is that even when you do win off spawn, there's a chance teams come in and third party. The Brawlers Battleground team likes to do that a lot. That team today is going to be Janice and Pixie, so we'll see if they want to get involved. Malibu and Mustache might be thinking, after you guys messing with us yesterday, we're going to mess with you off spawn at Little Dirty Dog, so they've got to be wary of third parties as well.
Yeah, and I was looking back at Haijo and Kaito. Actually saw some of the clips there against QNDX and Phantom, who of course have already qualified through to the grand finals. And it does seem like, although that they don't win off spawn as many times, Haijo and Kaito, much like Nebs and Kiduo, they seem to make the most of the games when they do make it out of there. In that qualifier number 1 that they had, or qualifier number 2, I should say, round number 4, they had a first and an 8th in the 2 games that they made off spawn there. So it seems like they're making the most of those games, which in this 3 lobby format is so important.
Listen, because Pixie in particular
Oh,
was
始まるね。
so on fire yesterday, just hearing that him and Janice might pay that area of the map a visit.
やばい、
I'm
寝不足
actually
感は頭痛い
like
ちょっと。
really keen to see if we can start some of our games in that area because I think it's going to be so much fun to watch. But we do only have 3 games in the upper bracket lobby, so we're going to see 25 duos going through, and then our remaining duos who haven't qualified will join the best of the lower bracket lobby from yesterday in the lower brackets final 3 games, and then 15 duos will qualify. We do not have any golden tickets today, so if you get a victory royale, you don't just automatically qualify to grand finals next week. However, you've probably got yourself enough points to secure the spot anyway. It is time though to start off the upper bracket. So game number 1 of 3 is ready with Jacob PR and Takata.
Thank you, Frankie. Jacob, this is the moment we've been waiting for. We've been handing out golden tickets, spots in the grand finals in the past 2 days of semifinals, but now it's all about consistency. 25 duos qualifying after the first 3 matches of the upper bracket, and another 15 duos qualifying after the last 3 matches in the lower bracket. We'll take a quick break in between uppers and lowers, but we'll be right back into the action. The battle bus is ready, the engine is roaring, so let's get right into game number 1.
With the difference of the format from no more golden ticket to consistency, Takata, it's going to be a little bit more like a grand finals teaser that we're seeing with the way teams are going to be forced to play. But same thing with only 3 games. If you don't have the first 2 games go your way, you will kind of have to go ahead and reach back into that bag of tricks and play for that golden ticket style, getting first place, second place, a number of
質問です。モングラルサベージはいます。モングラルサベージは NA やな。朝6時からのやつはいる。今 EU やから今はいないね。まあ朝6時からも NA の観戦配信するから、もしモングラルサベージに興味があるならその時来てくれれば見れるサベージモングラルは。
So far, it looks like Nebs and Kiduo do have the advantage. They were incredibly consistent yesterday, Jacob. 3 back-to-back 10th place finishes. It's not the best finish you can get, but if you're able to do it 3 times in a row, it's a significant amount of
今日見るのア
points.
ッパーだけだっけ。EU アッパーだけやね。死んじゃうね俺。EU の動画まで見たら。タンドットさんが死んでしまうのでアッパーしか見ません EU は。
It's a whole different team.
命優先で行かせていただきます。
A team that was supposed to be contesting him is already disengaging out. They're now a third party as another team enters into the mix, and it makes it much more of a sticky situation that Levin was talking about, the 50-50 towards the top, switching those 2 different sides. And you talked about the third parties coming in from Brawlers Battlegrounds. Now there's a couple extra teams around this location, so even if you try to choose to disengage the launch pad, there's still so many threats all around the lobby.
Kaido Hydro actually
みんな
choosing
通りやろ、どうせアッ
to
パーでさ
launch
すがに。
pod and kind of scout the surrounding areas.
NA はエピックオイルがローワにいるから、それの応援で見るけ
But
ど。
like you said, Jacob, it's only 3 matches. You don't have to necessarily do it well during all 3 to get top 25. 1 pop-off game could be enough. But it is the difference of qualifying through your position on the leaderboard versus just securing the victory royale in a match. As we go back north once again to the underworld.
A lot of contested fights, very, very early on. And I think it, in part, the cactuses, the way Storm Surge has been elevated during the semifinals might be a little bit of a blessing when it comes to the leaderboard at the very minimum. And you see Slovey, Nate just taking their time. They know they're kind of isolated out here, not too many teams around. There is one more towards the outskirts. You see them in the mini-map, but they have such spread out loot. They can't necessarily focus on beelining over. Another great shot to be fired on Slovey. Shields are gone. There goes a failed attempt to try to go up, but at least they get together in the box down below. They have space. They just don't have a lot of resources. Neither team actually does.
Yeah, Nate actually going to choose to disengage for a moment here to farm up a rock. But I believe it's not a moment. Now they're just going to go back on their own path. They've done the damage they wanted to. For Merstash and Malibuka, though, yesterday they were contested all day in red line rig, so got a bit of practice for today potentially. This off-spawn engagement hasn't ended quickly. Both teams looking semi-healthy, but Merstash caught a bit off guard, dropped down to just 6 shield now. Gonna be forced to pop a cola.
相手の方がきつ
I
いな
give
どう
Ace
見て
Frag
も
truly just all the credit in the world. They didn't even land at Redline Rig. They were the team that rotated on over. So just the courage, the bravery to not only go in late, but contest Malibu Mustache after they already have the loot. But they quickly realized it might have been a mistake. They disengage on out, and they're just going for cactuses, other scraps that are left behind. But they have to be careful because more and more teams are now making their presence known at the south side of the map. Nebs and Kiduo, a long way from Grim Gates, but you can see what they're going after. They started this game off with elimination onto 2, so now they're just chasing Karmi all around the map. And I talked about how thin it is and the importance of the cactuses. A lot of these players have already rotated out, so I don't think there's going to be too many third parties to stop and distract this.
It's difficult to run away on this side of the map as you do have the River of Styx, that green water that if you dip your toes in, you do get 3 dashes that you can use to kind of propel yourself forwards. Which is exactly how they were continuing with that chase. You can see Hellfire has one as well, that little green skull that's floating around him. Kind of stuck in the dirt though, as both teams, I don't think either has necessarily a huge advantage other than the positioning from being on top of them.
セイトと組んでる人って誰やったっけ？レフトガード
Just
とか
like
や
how
ったっけ？
aggressive they're trying to play. You see they're cutting them off, taking space. Hellfire and QB do the good thing of trying to extend their boxes, but now this puts them kind of in a tough spot. They got Mountain on one side, both of your opponent's builds on the other, open watered on the other entrance as Hellfire continues to take damage. Getting rough and rough scenario. Valorous is continuously being forced in such a tight spot. A little crevice down below, but QB is trying to fight back the best that he can. There's not very many opportunities, at least ones that don't come with a big risk. Gonna have to sacrifice some damage as they continue to put pressure from above. They're decently well right now when it comes to materials, considering it is the early game, but they are just getting depleted so quickly.
レビューズ頑張ってくれ。
The zone. As it pulls further and further, the clock's gonna keep ticking for these players. Luckily enough, they have medkits, so they can stay in the storm for quite a while here. Being the first zones, it's not gonna tick too much, but the disengagement is gonna come through from the aggressors now. Start making their way onto zone. There is another duo close by.
Yeah, this is going to be the best shot a lot of these North teams are even going to have to get Surge, unless they kind of sacrifice a little bit of loot to just run on over, as Nate seems like he already got to knock onto one. Teammates are just too separated far away. You know as well as I do, when they spawned out as solo, they kind of feed, what is the probability we can get this before his teammate comes back, and they went ahead and take that risk. It works out for them. Since they already know Hellfire and QB are back there, they know exactly where to position themselves if they want to continue to hold that spot and use them for Surge instead of rotating in.
Jakey trying to hide. As he's got 2 players that I'm not sure if they're hunting him down necessarily or maybe just continuing with their loot path. But it looks like Jakey is a solo, so most likely looking for an opportunity to pick up his duo partner, bring him back into the match.
They don't have eliminations, but once you hear that going down in the distance, you kind of start to make your way on over. You kind of get a little nosy, figuring out what's wrong as we jump in. Queasy, Thomas, continuing their strategies from yesterday, landing all the way towards the north at Classy Courts, much like everybody else, rotating as south as they possibly can. And Restored Reels are some of the earliest cactuses to the north side that you can reach, and that's why Queasy and Thomas, they base up on one of the first ones they see, and they go ahead and build their Surge Tower to try to get Surge. They're not afraid to trade shots and take damage because they know the cactus is going to respawn, get that 30 HP and shield back up, and that way they can continue to get as much Surge as they can.
メガネずれんの誰やな。気に入ったチャップが予測とファイト倒してるな。
For the forecast tower, so they do have vision on the upcoming zone before their opponents. Obviously, unless their opponents also have a forecast tower. So far, not too many duos boxed up around them. However, there are a lot of duos in the surrounding area, especially by Restored Reels, just like what Jacob was talking about, due to having those cactuses spawning in early that they can use to recuperate their shield while looking for that damage, those tags to outlive a Storm Surge threshold. Reason and Vidil, in the meantime, still more south. There was a lot of chaos in the early game here. Duos dropping in new locations. Malibuca Mustache not thinking they're going to get contested, having people rotate into them. Everything was kind of disrupted off the start in the southern section of the map.
And the thing is, yesterday, if you look at kind of, top 3 games, the performances, they started off with a second place 6 eliminations. They literally one place aside of not even having to be here today. So if they can continue to do that momentum, the early game pressure that they're able to put on teams, and kind of get those early points for the leaderboard, they're going to give themselves more and more of a cushion, more flexibility as the day goes on. Vico and Flixie, feel like the same thing that we said about them. 11th, 5th, 4th to start off the day. About 18 eliminations. You gotta think when it comes to consistency in this team, they have it unlocked.
Yeah, they were actually, I believe, one of the top teams, if not the top team. Yes, they were the top team yesterday in terms of leaderboard placement, not including obviously the game winners that took the qualification.
1時半前ですか。まあ多分1時半までじゃないやろな。2時頃なると思う。
Which is more than 30 points
2時ぐらいまで。
second place duo.
2時過ぎぐらいじゃん。
So if they can keep that up today, just 1 or 2 matches, it should be more than enough to qualify to the grand finals.
4時間ぐらいで起きて NA 見ます。ローアは見ると僕が死んじゃうので見ません。NA 一応6時から確認しとくことだったので。3時ファンおる。じゃあわ。スイーズか。スイーズじゃなかった。
Especially if they figure out a way to focus on a Nebs, target out who's weak. They haven't really been able to kind of reunite in the same box just yet, but Nebs is just inching himself one step closer. He has to be careful. The tops, the piece control is going on over, and they're just doing it consistently, forcing them lower and lower to these bottom layers.
Look at the surrounding areas for potential third parties.
あー、俺最後まで見れへん
There's
わ。
only one player in sight that could
ローアは
cause
しょうがない
disruption
な。
to this engagement.
2マッチしか無理かも、ロー
This
ア。
might take a long time, but I might have spoken too soon as the
大学
aggression
行か
is
なあか
on
んわ
now
俺。
off the Kidduo. Not gonna get tagged though. Just a couple scratches on his back. Nothing too big. As the
NA の
clock
ローア
keeps
は2マッ
ticking.
チかな、多分。見たいけど。
They do have
聞こえるの上。
55 seconds until the next zone appears. I think the aggressors here up above
頭痛いもん、ちょっともう。やばいこれ。テスト前やぞ。大丈夫か俺も2試合ぐらいしか見ないよ。2試合でやろ、2試合で。大体2試合やったら誰が取るか分かるやろ。
They did their damage. Kiddo and Nebs know they already have 3 eliminations and a decent amount of loot. They don't need to take this fight. So they're just kind of holding off inside their box, and looks like it worked out. So shortly now they should have an opening to kind of continue with their rotation.
And Katie was just sitting there the whole time like, I hope they fight. I hope they fight. That was easy third-party shots for him, but the longer it takes, the more risk you do end up having to take overall. So I like the decision to disengage. They got some damage, not a bunch, but now they can continue to rotate towards the south. Get a nice position in zone. Lusha and Wheat, even though they don't have a cactus, they're using the bush to try to hide themselves as much as possible. They have 2 different bases to try to get as much line of sight as they can. But Easy is very weak. He just got revived by Thomas. Medkit is out, but the duo is now pushing over. Art skill took some damage on the way over, and that slowed down their push just a little bit.
What went wrong in this situation? Look how many duos are in the surrounding area. You have Gunbury and Emil far away on another surge base. You have 2 duos around Thomas and Queasy. I feel like Queasy must have been knocked from afar, as Thomas did have enough time to pick him back up. But luckily enough, didn't get finished. Now recuperated their shield and HP that was lost originally, and have the opportunity to make it back into zone.
And there's slurp cacti all over the map. Less and less as they continue to move towards the right side of the map. And since they're not going to respawn in the zone, there's very few that they can use if they go into that beeline path. They will have to move towards the south if Cactus is going to be in their game plan. And I don't think so, because I do think they're going to rotate, grab some elevation. They know where the zone is going. It is moving towards the snowy mountains on the east side. Depending on where Rift Island, that might be the blessing. Because if it continues to pull all the way towards the east, you got the mountain ranges, the Mountain Olympus statue, a lot of different elevations that's going to cause disasters later in the game if you don't plan accordingly.
Yeah, we saw one zone yesterday, I believe, that did end around the Mount Olympus side of the map, and we saw how many changes in elevation there were and how it affected these players. I kind of like it though. I like a bit of chaos, Jacob, especially in the spectator side. If we were playing, it might be another story. But for Akira and Easy. 271 above. We did notice kind of some trends where if the zone did pull south due to being so many or having so many cactuses, the storm surge threshold would be higher than when the zone pulls north. However, this kind of east zone,
セイジってどこ行ってセイジ昨日で通
I'm
った
not
ね
sure how it's gonna affect it.
I see Rift
うわ
Island
キニがピコ倒して熱すぎる熱すぎる
You see it. And that
いや
just
これ
leads
ピ
me
コ
to
って
believe that
ピ
we're
コって
going to
OVA やっ
continue
て
to
これ
go
本物
towards the
本
east
物の
side
ピコ
of the map.
やとして熱すぎやけどキニがピコ
The
倒
teams
した
that
の
do
は
make
対
it
面
there
作業
early, I
対
feel
決
like, is going to have a little bit of advantage. But first, you got to go through Rift Island. And yesterday, we have seen kind of like a mix. Sometimes it's uncontested, very few teams going up, and other times it feels like half the lobby feels like that loot is necessary. The elevation, particularly because of storm surge and how high those thresholds are, you see more of the island, which means you get more information on where the players are rotating from. There's just a lot to be gathered there, and I expect with the changes from day 1 and day 2, we might see it a little more contested, not necessarily for the loot, but for the POV that they're going to get over the island.
Axe Force and Clownski. Oof, look at the amount of people here around or on the Rift Island. Axe Force being one that actually is below the Storm Surge threshold. This is one of the best locations on the map, though, to find damage, as it's almost guaranteed to have players. There's rifts down below that you can use to rotate launch pads, extra loot if you capture the flag, but also danger of third and
Giras
fourth
落ちた
parties if you end up getting cracked.
It's almost a decent
眠いね
sacrifice. Hey, I know I'm going to take damage. I'm just trading shots just to get above Storm
眠たい
Surge. And now that
ね
they are above, it does deactivate. They know exactly where they're at on that line. Of course, the threshold is going to go a little bit higher, knowing less players need to be in this lobby. But at least they know now, hey, I got to start being proactive. I got to figure out where I'm going to get my surge from. Is it on the island, off the island? They got to start enacting now. Otherwise, they're going to be down on surge, using a lot of their heals just to try to survive as more and more players make their presence known on top of Rift Island, which includes Malibu and Mustache.
いやーフレキシーがやばい
Flexi, though, we talked about it on
ワン
most
チャンフレキシー
consistent
やがあるよなほらほらほらあるんよワンチャンフレキシーやから
could
こいつやばいって
down here as Vico's already
なんで勝てそうなんえぐいえぐいえぐいあ勝っちゃったよ
as he cracks both of his
ほら
opponents,
見ろ
even
ほら
knocking down one. He's
ほら見ろ
turned this situation where he was at a total
強すぎる
disadvantage into now a 1 versus 1 with the potential of taking home 2 extra eliminations.
That was like worse than boxed up because he can't even break those covers to get out. It's environmental like 500 HP, but he somehow
Hold on,
turned
Mitini.
the tables. And then that floor, the stair was there,
Oh!
he was just trapped in a corner.
待ってこの
Flixie
配信
was
収益化してない
laughing, smiling ear to ear. Like that one was a little bit easy.
Wasn't
Since
it?
the zone is moving away from Reckless Railways, this could be and should be an easy reboot. On to Vico. They know exactly where the loot is at. Not a lot of storm damage being taken. With 4 floppers, it's going to be an easy case for them to get back into this game.
This is huge, actually. This is massive for Vico and Flixi. My only concern is getting back into the zone if there's duos boxed up already on the edge. They're going to hear that reboot, and they're going to know there's most likely going to be a duo wandering back in, so they will be taking shots at them, and they'll have to use a lot of materials.
あーやばいあれや
It's definitely a lot better of a situation than getting eliminated. Reason and Vidil now. They're above.
Okay.
So many duos close by as well, with just a sliver of HP in a current engagement. All it's going to take is one quick shot, one quick angle. But it looks like they're going to go into a brawl.
メルスたちが倒してる
Yeah, Snazy and Podosai was the ones kind of forcing those eliminations, but they're going to get none of the reward for it. Real Reason just pushed them off almost instantly as it happens, but if you look at their loadout, they don't necessarily need it either. 400 above the damage threshold. They're just trying to focus on this rotation, and this is where they got to make that conscientious decision. They can stall themselves here, but they have to wait for the team above them to use the launch pad and leave, or they can rotate with the Flowberry Fizz, the crash pads, and try to choose another direction, which forces out more resources out of your inventory.
Take a quick look at what Murstache and Malibuka have been up to. I see Axe Force close by. I see Klowski.
メルスたちサージ解消してきたな
Quick little pickup from Murstache. Hopefully that gives them a bit of loot to continue on forward. This is what we were talking about. Getting back
いや
in the
MU
zone.
強すぎ強すぎ
See Yanis and
あ
Pixie are actually going to be able to pick up Asa. Nice little shots being connected by that Stinger SMG in the air.
先目で飛んでただけなのにやなほんま
Pixie
に
led damage in game 1 yesterday.
先目で飛んだだけなのに
So it's almost not even a worry for me for Pixie and Yanis,
Oh, I
whether
saw.
they're going to get through consistency or not. It's more of how high on the leaderboard I feel like these guys will end up placing. And they already got one elimination, high on surge. They can just focus on their rotation, much like some of these other players. As Vidil and Reason is on the other side of that
Reasonと
point,
バディはサージ
86
か。
below, still having to rotate their way in, and when they get there, more than likely Storm Surge will start to activate. So they need to make sure that on this next rotation they figure out a way to get damage, and that is probably the number one way this season. Crash pad onto a team unsuspecting.
バディが手伝ってくれてる。ただレゾンが別からの車線が辛い。
third part, even though they're above on Surge, they've now become the focus. Reason and Vidil scrambling around to make space. They're not even in the same box. Things have slowed down. They're able to grab a breath of fresh air and figure out how to reassess the situation.
Hey, I'd say that was successful from Vidil and Reason, though, especially if they have the heals to recuperate what they've lost. They just needed damage. They got the damage, 150 above now. Didn't even get knocked, so got a little close, but they have some more time to breathe, and they even pulled zone here. The 7th zone. This is normally when Storm Surge hits the hardest, so that was a perfect moment to get above.
Most of the lobby is even already in the zone. Luckily for a lot of these players, it does kind of slope down the mountain, so it's not going to be as drastic of a rotation as it could get in this next zone if it continues to go towards the east, maybe even towards the north, the south. As long as it has that eastern lean, it's going to be disastrous for a lot of these teams. But Marius and Sandguild, probably one of the more watched duos coming into the season overall. Marius just taking names, showing his aggressive prowess, especially in those solos. He just needs to be able to kind of formulate that same style of play here with his teammate, figure out how to get those big wins that we know we're capable of.
I'm a fan of these Flowberry Crash Pad rotates, to be honest. One of my favorites throughout the different rotation metas we've seen. Merstash Malabuka now have made it into the edge of zone. They did get themselves into an engagement beforehand to recuperate a bit of loot, but now they're looking incredibly healthy. They do land red line ring, so they do have that medallion alongside a bit of mythic loot.
Continuously trading off, dropping the medallion, making sure to get the instant healing effect out of it. That way you can get back in the game that much quicker. Vidil and Reasons almost box to box with Podesai and Snazy. A good portion of these rotations towards the end of the game and still find themselves below the damage on the threshold. Vidil's taking one angle, which allows for an open opportunity for Reason, but Snazy and Podesai saw that one coming from a mile away. They don't take the bait, and now Storm Surge is active. Vidil is down, trying to go for the shot. Snazy and Podesai take advantage of that. It's going to leave Reason by himself with a tall task to try to come up with some damage here, but there's a little bit more flexibility as a solo.
What's so difficult about this zone is Storm Surge not only is incredibly difficult to reach the threshold, but also you have to plan your rotations. You can see Grand Glacier, a lot of changes in elevation, so you want to look ahead and kind of see where you want to position yourself. If there's a big change in elevation, you want to get more ahead of zone. If there isn't, you got to kind of figure out some options, but all in the meantime, you have to find damage. You got players trying to get into your box because they also need damage. But then you have players like Hellfire and QB who are going to choose to take a bit of an early rotation, which is going to work out incredibly well and get themselves elevated, preparing for the potential dangerous moving zones.
Now that they made a good rotation, let's see how they make use of it. Barely below the damage threshold. Any shot here will kind of put them up and ease the pressure on them. And I think that's going to be QB landing the ones that matter. You see them instantly jump 100 above that damage threshold. And that's because of that early rotation. They had the elevation to do it off the side of the mountain. As soon as the zone moved towards the northwest, the mountain mostly, you see some elevation there still able to grab. But that opened up windows of opportunity for everybody in the lobby to try to make a play, and they were the first team to capitalize on it.
So it's going to now actually end up pulling west, so it's going to pull away from the snowy mountainous area and get closer to the reckless railways. It's a blessing for a lot of duos, but also a curse for some others. Merstash Malabuka, almost 100 builds on just Merstash. You can see
kind
of get more of a primed up position here for this rotate as they are already ahead of zone.
Yeah, them being on the front side creates flexibility. They can look back towards the outside of the zone. Try to catch any solo players, anybody that looks like they're just handling scraps right now, take them down. When the zone opens up, they can do one of two things. Nitro clears their way to the front side or crash back their way. But I do know they're one of two teams, maybe even more. TD and Chap could be considered that as well. That do like to make a late play for the high ground. Not the 9th, maybe even the 10th or the 11th zone, though.
We saw how many duos played aggressively towards high in the start of yesterday's semifinals. I wouldn't be surprised if we see something similar today, especially with the amount of duos up in this current lobby that like fighting for that high ground. So far, no clear fight has been claimed. There are players up top, but they're not trying to hold on to it very strongly. Thomas HD and Queasy, though, a lot of difficulty yesterday in the mid game. Now they've made it to the late game, but can they close it out?
Yeah, just gotta make sure not to get focused out, because that's been the huge detriment. They don't necessarily go down because the service is more other players around them that aggress into their box. They become the focus. And now that they have elevated themselves more than enough, not too many teams on that same layer, so they're able to kind of have just a little bit more freedom, looking ahead of zone. All right, skill. Shakos, they get spotted out. Queasy's towards the backside with the cone, making sure to get as much information as possible.
Has claimed height. Nice shots being connected from above. It does have a crash pad. It's going to be that.
クイジが倒してる。クイジトーマスほんまに強いか。決めきりそう。
from his duo partner, so that's another one. So far, no teams have been kind of looking at the applying pressure, but they also are doing a good job shooting at players who are second height to try and kind of avoid that.
クイジトーマスはかなり
There's just not too many opportunities.
世代はだってそんな多くないから優秀したキニーとマリボカを倒しているサイドがしっかりと時期を重ねる
Can he get those resources, the material? That's going to be just as important as the actual points itself. And that one's finally cleaned up. He does get the mats. Might just be siphoned. At least it's something. Mustache and Malabuka trying to cause chaos from down below. They find themselves another elimination. Once again, trying to build up the mats. But Mustache is just so much damage. Create some space for himself to try to stay alive.
Potential titans about to clash. You have Thomas HD, Queasy, right
側面を取れている
beside Malabuka. Both full duos.
いや、王道デュオがしっかり生き残ってる。ティニーチャップ、クイジ、トーマス、マリオカメレスたちがしっかりと生きている。このデュオログラ、メルジン、カイド。ケイドとメルジン。
Elimination so far, 60 points. Great way to start the game. Half of the placements have already come in and been achieved. But Ryan just falls two behind the threshold, gets boxed out, separated. Cade's just thinking, do I play the hero or not? As Mustache just quickly trucks his way through. He's able to get out alive. The damage has been dealt. Cade is ready for it. Down goes Mustache. The shots that matter come in, and he gets the medallion. That is that little bit more that we're looking for to push these players into the end.
Game-changing plays from Cade, shot after shot. He has 3 med kits. He has the win condition, the potential to play this heal off. 8 players are up, and chaos is going to unfold down below.
Nobody really had a chance to look up yet again. Somebody's smooth sailing. Cade.
トーマスを疲れた。
Outside of the zone, they're trying to find the little crevice. Full duos left in this game as one of them goes down. Thomas gets taken out. Queasy falls to the storm. 2v2 situation. Heal off is going to begin. He starts it early towards the top side of the zone. He hears the communication from his teammate. He's weak. He's weak. Just a sliver of HP.
勝ち切っていたのはハイグラウンド。フリンプモンクがビッグロード獲得。スースイッチェードみたいな人、マジ強いな、シールド。
Something got into his mind and said, I need aggression, I need eliminations, dropped down, picked up Cade, and secured that victory royale.
This was perfect. This was the moment right here. The fight's going down below. A knock gets traded out. Cade is weak. And so he just drops down. Firen goes down to the zone. I don't know if he noticed that or not. And then it's just a 1v1. Sliver of HP landed that final shot onto Cade and takes the game. He may not have advanced directly to the grand finals, Takada, but he is so close now.
I want to know what was going through his mind. I mean, that was quite a risky situation to play out, but I mean, it worked out. So he got that victory royale. Both players now good amount of points. Will they be able to hold on to make it to the grand finals? I don't know yet. We have to go to a quick break, and then we'll be right back for a lot more action. So we'll see you soon. Don't go anywhere.
今映ってるやん、しかもケイド。誰？びっくりした人はマジで知らん。みよみよさんが動画自分の見ろって決めてから見るか。じゃあみよみよさんが動画自分の見ろって決めてから見るか。じゃあだって声めっちゃ暗示してくる。これ切らなあかん。よし、クリップ集です。どれ見よう。クリップ集でいいか。
いけてない勝ったよ。
おうおう。
合ってる合ってる。
うまっ、エイムよ。強っ。
やばい。
うるさいうるさい。ナダさんこんばんは、こんばんは、こんばんは。
すごいガチうまい。ガチうまい。
これやだよ、これ。これうるさいな、マジで。
その恥たらしはちょっと今から殺してくるわ。惜しい。
めっちゃヘッドライン綺麗やな。
I'm the best bro. Let's go. Oh, 100% I'm dead. 100? Let's go.
前か、こんなもんで。
今日はでもダメだ回数
よし、戻るか、公式。
As we're one game into the 6-game extravaganza, our third and final day of the semi-finals. And as always, it was a fantastic match to kick things off. Philip Monk having the perfect timing. It's like he called on a higher power to know when to drop down and get the final blow on Cade Levin.
Or his teammate Firen hit him and told him he was low, so
There was that too. There was a bit of it.
Fine. Okay, we're a very secular broadcast here. I apologise.
Yeah. No. They sky based on height throughout the end game. Nobody really looked up. The people who did maybe try and go up were like, hold on a minute, these guys are doing a sky base. What are we gonna do to get involved here? And then at the walk towards the end there, Firen is obviously the one tasked with dropping down, trying to wipe out the rest of the lobby. Isn't quite able to wipe out the lobby, but he does do good damage onto Cade and probably comes, oh my god, he's 1 HP, drop down. And then like Philip Monk's panic down, okay, let me finish this off instead of using my med kits, and they end up winning the game from there.
Let's just run with the narrative that Philip Monk has like a sixth sense and he just knows.
Yeah,
and Frank, you would prefer that, you know? But the way they took height
He's got
there...
Monk in his name, guys.
Yeah, true, yeah, exactly. So I think the way they took height there was really good. I think, you know, although they just kind of ramped up, they both played two different layers, if you noticed there as well. So anyone that did try and come up, one of them could just spray and the other one could keep onto that height. So really nice height fundamentals at the beginning of that end game. And then, yeah, as you mentioned, Levin, just drop down and trying to find as many of those eliminations as possible, because realistically, that might be the strat in this sort of lobby. You don't necessarily need to win the game, although those guys did, but just ramping up on height, investing those materials, making sure you can get yourselves into that top 5, top 10 situation just to rack up those points. Obviously, it depends on the situation, but that could be a strategy we see unfold more often.
Well, let's take a look at the leaderboard and see where we're at after our first of 3 games in the upper bracket lobby. Top 25 qualifies for the grand finals. So we've got some very happy duos in the top 10, Mini-Miner.
Yeah, really happy indeed. I mean, the job's not done for a lot of those teams, apart from, of course, Marine and Cade up there. Of course, having a very good game as well. They had a 4th place with 9 eliminations in that last game. Nice to see from these guys, more close to home in terms of a zone, so that's going to have benefited them a little bit as well. Just overall, nicely played endgame using their experience. They know they don't need to go the full distance and win the game today, just as long as they can have consistent endgames like they have here.
Yeah, it was really fun to see them sort of wiping teams on these mid layers, right? Just Thomas putting in work is always going to be a staple of an EU FNCS. Just always ready with his shotgun in hand, and he's rarely going to miss, is he? So, no, that was a really fun sort of endgame to watch from Queasy and Thomas, and the kind of thing I'm expecting to see more from them off next weekend on Grand Finals.
I've missed this
Wow,
season,
最悪
I
だ。
have to say. I've kind of been wondering where
ミスっちゃ
they've
った
been at
ね。
in terms of their consistency. It's been a
ク
little
イズ
bit
も
of a
ミスっ
struggle,
た
I
ね、これ。
feel like this major three, but
あ。
really good to see them challenging. Also, it's always great to see Chap and
真上に上がる。
Tony as well. It's just like, it would feel weird not seeing them make
上が
it
る
to
人
the
たち
end
も
game.
今
And
8
it
位か。
always would feel weird if we didn't see them in the top 10. I mean, they're probably sitting at number 5 now.
強っ。
Yeah, I mean, these guys were doing pretty
See you,
well
yeah.
in this game. Teeny with some really big shots there, right, to keep his team in the game. You know, he was sort of leading on the mid players, and things were sort of moving on smooth sailingly, right? There wasn't anything too crazy going on. It was sort of just a bog standard end game from them, not the flashy, high flying games we're used to seeing maybe. But again, in this format, it's enough to sort of get the job done, and if they can do that again, they'll be well on their way to Grands.
Yeah, it's a team that I'm enjoying seeing performing well. It was one of those teams that we kind of expecting to get a win yesterday and Friday. It was just like, when are they going to do it? Are they going to do it? Surely it's going to be now. And it didn't end up happening, but I'm sure they'll qualify through today with the way they're playing.
I was watching that game though and thinking, oh, this is finally the time that we see Merstash and Malabuka pick up a long-awaited victory royale. They put in so much hard work yesterday. They had the perfect loadout from Redline Rig, a brilliant game, and then Kane and Marine came to steal it from them, Levin. I kind of felt sorry for them.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the focus there for me would be on Cade and him just sort of bossing them out of the lobby, really. They clearly didn't expect to see it happen. Look, he just popped up right behind him, and Malabuka's like, wait, hold on a minute, what's happening here? Drops down to low, and he's like, oh, I'm out of the lobby now. It's funny because they sort of got taken out by Cade there in a way you would have expected Malabuka Mustache in the past to take out other people, which, you know, something poetic there, surely. So, yeah, but it's still a good game for Mali and Mustache.
Yeah, they were looking good as well. I thought it might actually end up taking the win at a certain point there. I was actually looking back what happened last season, because I remember they were in day 3 last season as well, upper bracket, and they did actually win the very first game of that day. So I was hoping it would be even more poetic there with the way that they would do the exact same thing, but it didn't end up happening. They still have to do a lot of work now. What's that, 50 points that they're on right now? So it's not done yet, and especially if their off-spawn situation could be ruffled up a little bit. We saw some a little bit of contestation by Acefrac there, just rotating on in. So I'm concerned about whether that could become a more regular thing if Acefrac decides to land on them. We'll have to wait and see.
I feel like they've had so much success off spawn though this particular weekend that I feel like we're starting to see the Merstash Malabuka that we saw back in Major 111, and that's obviously good news. I mean, obviously not that I'm the expert, but when you're thinking ahead to Fort Worth, this surely is going to be the pride of Europe, this duo.
Absolutely. When it comes to being contested, they're never a team that has shied away from that. You know, they're always going to be that team where, regardless of the score with them in an off-spawn battle, they're probably still going to be high on you on the leaderboard, and I think that will, you know, ride through here today as well.
Well, let's see what happens at Redline Rig and also across the map for the rest of our duos as we head to our second game of the upper bracket with Takata and Jacob here.
Thank you again so much, guys. And this is the thing that I really want to take note of. One more appreciation for the guys who just won that last game. This is a possible first FNCS final appearances for this guy. And most important thing is they barely got into the lower bracket. Outside of top 250, luckily for them, it was top 255 making it in. This proves right here that dreams can come true if you just work hard to achieve them.
Yeah, it's what you love to see. Firen is the first and only EU player without an FNCS finals to take home a victory royale in the upper bracket. Things you love to see, just like the battle bus being ready. So let's get into the second match of the upper bracket.
If you guys are just tuning in, this is game 2, and normally we have 5, maybe even 6 games depending on the format, but this is the upper bracket, which means 3 games total. So there's only 2 shots left for these teams to rise up that leaderboard and advance to the grand finals in the top 25 due to consistency. So if you had a good game in that last one, you're actually onto the right track.
Take a look at this. Haijo Kaido looking like they might have this drop spot uncontested now. You can see truly
ここですかぶりか。
Ace Frack were the ones contesting them, but now they're kind of the
あー惜
outskirts
しい。
for Stroking and Raban though.
DMR で勝った
They're
人
gonna
が
have
ね
to be
すげえ。
careful as X Swedes is actually gonna be
XVG
looking to pick up that first elimination now. Should probably go assist his duo partner. That's in another one versus one. If Raban goes
5番
down
目
here,
は決めたい。
it's all over.
幅が来ちゃう。
Well, I would love to see him just kind of rush through that door on the other side. He had the opportunity. He still does. Oh,
あー
that's that
惜し
first
い。
knock. He did end up off the
間に合う
launch
か。
pad, but he goes down. X-Squeeze
そして間
still
に合う。
in the
で
needle
け
right
え。
there.
あと2とかじゃないこれ。
So that patch
危
on
な。
W off the off-spawn fight.
なんとか卒業間に合ったね。
10 teams contesting each other so far, according to the drop map. A lot of off-spawn engagements throughout the day. That was a close one for X Swedes though. If he wasn't able to connect that last shot, I don't think he had a shotgun, so you can even see with the third party coming through now. Even now, this is incredibly dangerous.
That's Chromatic and Locks. That was that team that contested Haicho and Kaido in that last game, dropping all over the island today. Just trying to catch some of these teams off guard. We've seen that used as a strategy in the past, and it has worked out. But sometimes it takes more than just trying it out on game day for it to work. You got to be able to practice it. At least the different loop paths to try to catch some of these teams off guard. Even if you have the elevation here, it's not going to be the easiest thing to try to drop down and fight this team down below. Especially if they crash pad away.
I think Chroma knows exactly how much HP his opponents have. I mean, they know they just got out of an engagement, but they don't know if they destroyed them, and they both have 200 effective HP and shield. If they're low,
強いな。
we're just kind of taking a look at the situation, seeing how much of an advantage they might have before fully committing to anything, but they weren't interested for Nebs and Kiruo though. Once again, it looks like they might have came out on top here at Grim Gate.
They're taking out like two birds with one stone here at Grim Gates. They're getting their POI, they're making it off spawn, getting up that leaderboard, but they're also pushing Toos and Karmi not only out of the POI, but taking them down, making sure like, hey, even if you guys go down to lower bracket, we're gonna try to demoralize you, lessen the chance of you coming back. That way, when it comes to the FNCS finals, if they make it there, they have it more than likely uncontested.
Back at the new kind of POI that appeared a couple days ago. Still haven't seen anything really new happen from this area, even though there are some new items. We'll see how this fight concluded though. Asa, who got knocked early in the match last game, if I'm not mistaken. Now looking to come out on top of an elimination. Fico Flixie back at Reckless Railways. They're fully uncontested, right?
Yeah, as of now, they're fully uncontested. But we do see teams rotate in towards Reckless Railways, especially depending on where the zone goes. And they do have access to that forecast tower that spawns just south of Reckless Railways if they do want to try to claim it for themselves. That has been a part of their strategy throughout the weekend, which has kind of helped in terms of their consistency. The other team that likes to beeline for him, Chap Teeny, makes sure to push every team off, but Teeny taking just a little bit too much damage. 40 HP, does have the shields to get back up to tip-top shape, but he needs Chap to buy the time. And with him getting dropped down low and focused, it might not have been the way they expected to buy the time, but they got it nonetheless.
The second most consistent duo yesterday, Chap and Teeny. Do not want to go down early here. They did their damage, but now that the third party's close by, I doubt they're going to continue with their aggression. They are going to replenish their dashes by stepping in the water, pop that Flowberry Fizz, and now with a little crash pad, continue with their rotation. But am I mistaken? They want a piece of the pie. They're more hungry. They're not done yet. The goal has been popped. Are they going to keep pushing?
Part of me wants to say yes, part of me wants to say no. There's still that forecast tower back there that they haven't necessarily claimed. And then further and further they rotate away from it. More and more comfortability happen with some of these other teams, probably to try to rotate in and kind of claim it for themselves. But it is zone 1. It is really early for that forecast tower to start to come into play. So they're probably trying to condition a lot of these teams.
Taking a look by Lavish Lair. Looks like Tui and Jakey from a difficult early game in game number 1, where Jakey was left alone, to now on the opposite end here, picking up another Elim. Not too much is going to happen though. They're just going to continue now with their mid-game rotations. We haven't seen a lot go on around the Lavish Lair side of the map. A lot of the engagements have been a bit more south or even on the east side.
Yeah, typically what I've noticed is a lot of the teams that even land Lavish, they kind of loot up, and then they either move towards the north to try to go after Surge and those bunkers that do spawn there, or obviously this season they immediately try to beeline it towards the south, grab one of the cactuses. Not a lot of action actually goes down around Lavish Layer unless teams are rotating in, like we did see. Slove and Nate, they already got a sense with only one elimination so far that somebody else is floating around here. A solo.
Ooh.
That's 4 points that they could definitely use to try to get themselves higher up on that leaderboard, especially since it's already game 2.
They know. Do they know? They know there's a player in the somewhere, but you can see how much cover that kind of little rock actually gives. It reminds me, that rock reminds me like a mini version, you know,
今朝マジ久しぶり。治った？音ゼロになってただけやった。あ、ごめんごめんごめん。いや、うべらがした。聞いた音した。
Man, I'm really drawing a blank, but I know I used to land there. I know, you know, the NA boys, you know, Rogue Shark, they used to kind of land over there as well.
Oh, way back.
Yeah, that's
疲れたで。
I don't think anybody even remembers their name. A full generation of players have come in, and I know it's a different region. Giannis and Pixie, kind of business as usual. They don't always leave Brawler's Battleground right away. They like to loot it up to the fullest. Knowing they do have the cactuses later on. In terms of getting their storm surge, so they don't necessarily have to beeline it right away like a lot of these other teams on the north side of the map.
1週間やったら多分戻んで別
Got
に。
yelled at by Levin, telling me it was literally called the shark, but
See, I was,
You know, it's
I
part
was
of the
thinking
fun.
that, but I thought it was just too obvious there. But Levin wasn't, so.
that's true, he does.
朝インスタ交換しようよ。俺インスタやってない。
Or should I say just Cade?
ほら交換したくないから言うとかじゃなくてガチでやってない俺インスタ。
92 points already for this duo. They are in first place leading the pack, even though they didn't get the initial victory royale. We saw how dominant Cade was in that late game, almost annihilating Murstache and Malibuka. 9 eliminations, I believe, is what they finished with. But if Cade ends up going down now, it could be detrimental.
Yeah, they're just trying to double Nitro into the box. He does the right thing, change layers, but get cut off on the other side. Nice shot to back down one. Avahalo and Low-Key, they're kind of reassessing the situation like, hey, is this something we want to actually do? Flowberry fizzing on the low ground.
YouTube 調子いい。YouTube 今9連続1000回再生超え。適当に出した適当に作った動画で伸ばす気なく適当に出すかって出した動画除いて今9連続1000回再生超えやな。次もアジアのトップ5予想やから10連続1000回再生超えになる。
As Vidal continues to hunt for tags, this is close to where Queasy like to box up as well. In the last match, Queasy somehow got knocked down while trading tags. So hopefully they don't overcommit once again.
Yeah, that's something we saw as we turned into the last game. Queasy barely getting revived back up by Thomas. Luckily they have the cactus, some extra heals over there for them to use, but you see almost every single game, game in and game out, they go over towards Shipwreck Shallows, they grab one of these cactuses, build the tower maybe like 5 layers high, maybe even 6, and then they obviously grab their roof so they don't get crash padded on, and try to grab as much surge as possible. But depending on whether if they get a scope or not in these DMRs really determines how much storm surge they're actually able to get. Because you notice they don't go for a bunker almost at any stage of the game. So they're kind of relying on that floor loot of a DMR having it thermal or some sort of scope.
This is the first time throughout the semifinals where the game winners are still playing after they took home the win. As we can see, Flip Monk and Fire in here going up against, I was gonna say just one duo, but there seems to be 2. It's an all-out battle now, 3 different teams at Mount Olympus.
It's kind of easy rotation though.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are gonna fully commit to anything, and like you said, the rotation in this side of the map, you do have a lot of environmental launch pads which can be put to good use here. I believe that's where Haijo and Kaido are actually heading towards right now. Maybe they just want to claim the hill and see kind of where this zone closes.
Yeah, I think it's just going to be a little bit of sacrifice for them if they do want to stay here. I like the idea of it, especially the zone continues to pull over there. It's just the big question is how much surge did they get in the early game, because a lot of the players are not necessarily boxed up on that side of the map. Mustache and Malibuka still floating around Redline Rig. They haven't had the need to kind of push out too far just yet. They have a lot of the cactuses replenish HP to replenish those shields. They can rotate in late, try to get some shots on a lot of these other teams that are coming in from the south, that are from the west, that might try to rotate south to the slower side of the zone. And I think that's what they've been using game in and game out. They're not necessarily relying on cactuses every step of the way.
I want to see a win from Mustache Malibuka today. I want to see it happen. We didn't get to see it in day 1, 2. I think they've been baiting us a little bit, Jacob. They just kind of want to get their practice in before grand finals. But, you know, the joke's over. You can do it now. I've waited long enough. Podosai Snazy, though, put into a bit of danger. Podosai has been fully cracked.
そういやグラファどんな感じなの？グラファ？そうか、サベージモングラルがあれやね。普通に世界大会行けるかもしれない。ここ行ってからすごい間にしたなし、いいね。そうだよ、何よりや。
Which means if they fall flat here in game 2, they're going to really leave it all on the line, and they're almost going to be mimicking the format of yesterday, where they need a big win in order to get into that threshold.
マジで頭回らん。
Similar zone to last match, once again pulling towards kind of the northeast side of the map. We talked about it previously, but there's a lot of mountains and ridges and changes in elevation, which could be a potential danger during the moving zones. As we take a look at Cade once again,
眠いわほんまに。
I don't think this was
NBA 見られへんこのまま行ったら。
engagement. There was another 2 duos fighting. He had
2
lost
試合
the
でい
line
い？どうしよう。
even a couple zones ago.
クイジーも決めたし、マリオカートちょっとキニも決めるやろしな、この試合で。バディルレゾンか、でもあと。調子の。
I believe they just. I think he got Mariah back into the game, and unfortunately enough, he just went down right here, right now. So Cade has no choice but to wait it out. Mystic and
起きれるかな、まだサベージみたいからさすがに起きれるか。サベージおらんかったら多分これね、爆死しとる。
This is going to be the best shot. This might even be the only shot we have to get some isolated surge while all the rest of the teams have rotated in. You were just talking about the zone moving towards the east around Mount Olympus, which means everybody on this side of the map, whether you go now or later, has one of the farther distances to cover.
Once again, Mustache Malibuka being the first to claim the Rift Island here. They've made their little base. They've captured the flag. And being already 423 damage above, they don't need much more, but we know how confident this duo is mechanically, how well they can play aggressively. So for the duos trying to contest
サベージモングラル強い。サベージモングラルめっちゃ強い。てかモングラルがバカ強なったら覚醒しとるあいつ。やばいよマジで。初動に関してはモングラルがキャリーしとるじゃん。普通に。初動めっちゃ強いモングラル。
Just to grab a spot on the island, not even necessarily to fight it out. They want to get surge, but when you have a team that's below on damage above the island, of course some chaos is going to break out. Malibuka Mustache taking a little bit advantage of that, trading some shots. But you see the medallion getting dropped. Mustache is trying to replenish the shield. They do have med kits for the HP as well.
全席超えやろな。
The team is still fighting it out towards the side, and that's because a surge is just forcing them to interact with each other.
強さのベクトルが違うけど、全席はなんか言うこと聞かんかったけど、今言うこと聞くけど、代わりに若干パワーをしたみたいな感じ。IGL の言うこと聞くけど、全席ほどのパワーはないと思う。まあ、それでもめっちゃパワーあるけどね、今全然強い。
Position themselves right back into their tarp and kind of play it a bit slower here. It is difficult to get a reboot this far in the match, so
よし、頑張ってほしい。頑張ってほしいね。
might be forced to play it out.
よし、明
As
日
a
の
solo
ための
issue
アラー
is
ムを
the
設
opposing
置
team
しよう。
knows you're also alone, so
明日のアラーム。
if they're feeling aggressive enough or need a bit of
9時じゃないわ、危な。
damage, they might
6時で
just
した、
end
ス
up
タ
making
ー
a
ト。そう
play
いえば。
towards you.
9時やったらね、楽やのにね。
On top of Rift Island right now, a little crevices there is reason of a deal. Finally turning things on, getting a little bit more aggressive. Karmi's down, so is Toos, and They may have made it out of Grim Gates this game, but they didn't make it very far. And those are two eliminations that I think Reason and Vidil need. Not necessarily for the leaderboard, obviously that helps, but they land over towards Brutal Beachhead. They get the medallion. They have infinite nitro, at least one of them does, and they have the ability to break into a lot of these boxes. I want to see them take a little bit more risk taking down some of these teams that they're fighting and close the time it's taking to finish these fights.
It's working out so far. Looking incredibly strong in terms of basically everything, except for now that the pressure's on them. They do have the builds to hold it off, but even then, they're going to use a lot of materials for this rotation as they still have a ways to go.
落ちるは夏休みまでね。あ、マジお休み、夏休みまだなんや。頑張って学校。俺も大学のテストだけど、ちなみにまだ。全然やばい。全然テストやばい。いや、マリブ形になさると壊するよ。
Yeah, the crash pad will only take you so far. The Rift will not only allow you to cover further distances, but you get information just like this will allow Reason Video to make this decision, get on top of the Rift Island, and they can always drop down low, get a Rift. There is launch pads, there's a lot of mobility still to be had.
チャップ対フリーモンク。さっきびっくり中。チーニーチャップ危ういか。グラファ。
Teeny's already down. Game 1 winners are already feeling a little bit of that stress. At least they're above the threshold, so Storm Surge not necessarily a worry for now.
このチームはこの逃げ切でびっくりあれ確定かな。
Four more points for their total before it does look like he has to rotate on out.
How long have they been fighting for here? I mean, they've been in Mount Olympus for what, since third, fourth zone? Just taking shots at each other. There was 3 duos here before. One of them left. Now it was Chap and Teeny up against Flipmuck and Firein, but now it looks like the engagement might come to an end as Chap is fully cracked once again. 20 white. I don't think he has enough time here to pop a med kit. He has healed a little bit though.
Small fries still. Flopper on the other side with med kits, small fries with med kits. That's keeping Chap just healthy enough to be able to run away, and that way he doesn't get his med kit canceled out. Nice right hand peek by Chap. Philip Monk is still on the chase, and I feel like this is almost a no-win scenario for both of these teams, but you gotta imagine at least a little bit is edged on over to them. Now I'm worried. Now I'm worried. 13 HP. It's only a matter of time. And now he has all those medkits that you're talking about, the floppers, a lot of extra resources, and a free reboot just outside of Olympus.
I got faith, Jacob. We're gonna see Flipmon back in the game. It might be 10th or 11th zone when he finally makes it. But he's gonna make it back, mark my words. Quick replay of how he ended up getting those 2 eliminations, but in all seriousness, I think he should be able to make it back quite quickly. They do have launch pads and natural mobility to do so. It's just going to be the reboot, getting his duo partner back in, getting looted up, kitted up, and ready for action. This is going to be a difficult zone. It is a mountainous area, so these players are going to have to be prepared and try and keep themselves as elevated as possible. However, that is difficult, especially if you don't have a lot of materials to work with, or you are a solo. Look at Kiduo. He's claimed quite a nice position. Storm Surge is ticking though. 7th and 8th zone is where it is genuinely or generally most active, as you can see. Flixie. Nice knock.
Flixie needs to stay alive. They have 8 points. 8 points, 16 now that he's doubled up with a full wipe, but you don't want to leave it until that last and final game to qualify, especially when you were considered one of the most consistent teams. They're probably looked at as one of the favorites to win the actual FNCS, and now you're falling short of those expectations. Top 28, which means placement points have yet to even set in, so this is big. Flixie doesn't have to win the game here, but he needs to get so close to that top 25 threshold, maybe even top 10 to get half of the points to give him and Vico much more of a chance.
Uncontested reckless railway is almost basically an uncontested forecast tower. They have everything they need to play it out, but now left as a solo. We'll see if Flixie can hold on. Just like Kiduo, so many solos trying to play it out here. Issue is for Kiduo, he is 68 below. Good news is he's elevated enough to have opportunities to make some shots, but he's gonna have to land them.
雨はやるしか
And
な
he
い。
has an exit plan there with the launch pad. He does get turned off momentarily, so neither one of these teams are going to be able to use it, but he's constantly staying ahead of the curve, trying to cut him off. And when he realizes he doesn't have the advantage anymore, he goes back to doing surge. Everything is going through his mind right now. The checklist of things to do, defend myself, get surge. Now it's heal up that just appeared on his checklist, but he has to go ahead and make it to zone first if he wants to buy that time. He is a solo, and he's so low right now, 108 below the damage threshold. Everything is coming crashing down for Kiruo, but this is what champions are made of. If you're able to dig deep and pull out the game here, I gotta respect you for that.
Now down to 171 below. He has the flow berry, he has the med kits, but once this zone starts ticking, the time is gonna run low. You can see Storm Surge is already active. Kiruo now is running out of options. He has Flixie close by, which is another solo, but he doesn't know that. This is gonna be incredibly difficult.
いやー辛いね。
It's a breath of fresh air. Storm Surge turned off. Thank you, he says to the rest of the lobby, for taking down enough players for me to survive. Now we can start thinking proactively. 92 builds, 2 med kits, no shields. He needs a refresh to try to get those shields back. Not necessarily for the materials, but he has some time and some flexibility to do it, and that's why he's peeking through the cone to get that information, pinpointing where these duos at, maybe trying to find a solo. Who can I
サージをしっかりと空島に行くことで回収する方法を発見したか。
Southwest is going to be getting closer to the Mount Olympus side, which means it's a big drop in elevation that these players are going to have to do. But the issue with that is if zone pulls back up, you go down, up, down, up. Those drastic changes in elevation is what use a lot of materials, especially if you don't have items to kind of help you with your rotation. It could lead to their end, but for Malabuka and Merstash, they want to prepare for these situations, and that's exactly why they've just hunted down a nice little impact frag. Unfortunately, did not give them a lot of loot, but still, those 4 points are going to come in handy.
I was thinking Chroma was going to be able to get out, maybe have a solo clutch,
but
down that mountain, down altogether. Reason of the deal. Still finding these opportunities to get some damage, staying above the damage threshold. You see, they're not necessarily rushing. They do have the crash pad, the flowberry fizz. The longer they stagger themselves, the more they're going to get out of it. And even though Malabuka and Merstash are high above the clouds for now, you see how drastic of a pull that is going to be down that mountain. All those players below, if they don't have builds to build this cushion, Malabuka and Merstash will have to expend more and more of their resources.
This is huge. These are some of the best zones. Height. You can get the zone to pull back, and it's going to be incredibly difficult for the players down below to try and overthrow you because of the amount of materials that they're going to have to use on this rotate. You also have to keep in mind where you want to position yourself before that zone closes. Flixie picks up elimination on the flip-lock. This is huge. He's been playing as a solo throughout this whole end game, but he's still looking like he can't be stopped with 3 eliminations, 700 damage above, and he's just getting started with his rotate.
Every single point this game is off the back of Flixie. And he's inching themselves closer. Like I say, you don't need that big win. You just need to get as close to the top side of the leaderboard as possible as Flixie gets taken down, separated from Yanis, who is out of build. 1 minute left to his name. He is down, and he is down bad. As Raisin scrambles around, him and Vidil just get tagged out. HP and Shield drop down low, but Peekaboo tries to land a surprise shot, but Nate is the one who's left standing.
Merstash Malabuka have lost the high ground. They're now down in the snow, as it looked like it's going to be Artist that's up above. Pablo and his duo going ahead.
Dame, I expect to see just a little bit more
Flixie倒してる。
process, but glad to have you here nonetheless. Now it's time to make something of these games that you are able to play as high ground changes hands yet again. Artists and Fire, so they're the ones well above everybody else, and they're attacking that second height. They don't have enough builds to talk about, so it's either disengage off of this or continue to try to go layer for layer against this team that's
It's the only option they have, but Merstash realized that and capitalizes on the situation, securing a knock, but he's lost his duo partner. Malabuka is down with just 18 HP and a dream. No materials to work with. Merstash is forced back, and he needs to find it in elimination.
Oh, there's a couple medkits out there, but he doesn't have enough HP to go back there and get them. There's builds as well. Everything that he needs. Pablo peeks through the cone along with Bevies. They take him down. You see the medallion scrambled all around the map. They're using all this chaos down below as distraction. They easily move up a layer and towards the front side of the zone.
Faultiac's cool. Now going to be the new high ground kings. Meanwhile, the couple duos down below are going to have to battle it out. If they have the potential to connect to this ridge, it could be enough, but they got to keep the pressure down below. It's a potential for a lot of eliminations. Our skill goes down. Pablo and his duo incredibly low on HP. Voltiax and Cool might just be able to clean this up from above.
これは
Bills no longer connect, but Cool is dropping down even with the med kit. He doesn't need it. 1v2 situation. Cashy goes down. Cool and Voltiax cash in all the way from the southeast portion of the map. Welcome to the top side of the leaderboard, brothers.
Great way to finish off the match. You can see how little materials, how little HP and shield all the players down below had from that difficult rotation. So the duo up above was able to clean it up with ease. But Jacob, that's already the second match of the upper bracket. Now there's just one more opportunity for these players to get top 25. If you're
無理ですこれ。NA 見れませんこのまま見ると。終わります。配信。1試合残して。ソーリーマジで。倒れるこれマジで。ということで EU は終わって NA ちゃんと見るんで NA のメメツさん強いね。メニューさん9度7位9度7位。皆さん公式見るからじゃあ公式見といて NA6 時から配信あるんで絶対 NA の方が見たいからサビアジとモングラビーから NA の朝6時からよかったら見に来てください。ごめんね急に配信終わっちゃってマジで倒れちゃうわこのままいると。ということでお疲れ様でした。 NA の朝6時からお会いしましょう。それじゃあ皆さんまたね。